Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Tech2Talks. I'm Nimish and today we are talking audiobooks. Yes, Audible, the world's largest audiobook company, is launching in India today. And I have with me Mr. Donald Katz, the CEO and founder of Audible, and Mr. Shailesh Savlani, who's the Audible India head. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Before getting into the nitty-gritties of Audible, the first question that we keep hearing about, like the future of content is video, and more video. In such a time, you're launching an audio-focused product. So just run me through that,
Well, the good news is that the proof that audio and Audible is a powerful and an addictive experience that will soon captivate many, many millions of Indians is that right now there's millions and millions of people, actually tens of millions of people, are customers around the world, and they are listening at a rate that far exceeds the number of minutes that people watch screens with movies or television. It's almost 2 hours per day on average that people listen to Audible. And it's just an experience that people, frankly, have to try. Discourse, it's very different than watching a movie, but it has elements of the cinematic experience. It's storytelling at its best, and it's millions of hours of programming that I think people will find themselves if they try it.
I think just to add to that, right, I think you will find, and as you understand the media type more, you'll find that people are really using this at a time where their eyes are busy or their hands are busy, but their mind is free. Right, and even if you think about an activity such as scrolling through your social media feed, even that requires some attention. And people, there are those times in the day that are still available, right, where people just need that, or they can use just to listen, and maybe just use some time to get away from what people are seeing as screen fatigue now.
Did you all do any sort of study in India to sort of understand the audio consumption patterns of the Indian audience, or before?
Well, we certainly knew from our tens of thousands of Indian customers who became U.S. Audible customers. One of the great announcements today is that those customers can pay much, much less in a very reasonable $199 per month. And for that $199 per month, if you want to, you can download Stephen Fry reading all of Sherlock Holmes 70 hours for just that $199. So it's a pretty good deal if you want to get the longer kind of programming. But we definitely have had a long time to study the Indian market. We've had beta testing going on, and so we're pretty clear that this is going to be a tremendous success for us. But we're starting in English, and we will move into local languages from here. And what we do is we put our ear to the particular culture when we enter a new country. We don't expect just to take the recordings that we can find. We will make them. We will customize them to the desires of the people we'll serve.
So that brings me to the next question. So in India, a very small fraction of the population can read and understand English, whereas majority of it still is focused on regional languages. You mentioned at launch you will just have English books. So how far into the future are we looking at for regional content to get onto Audible? Because Amazon already has a library of regional language books. So how long?
We'll move as quickly as we can into the local languages. But from a population point of view, as you probably know, the number of extremely fluent English speakers and people who would be entertained and educated and enlightened in our particular way in English is a very large number of people by international standards, and larger than any of our European markets to start. But when we go into a country, we move very quickly. We develop content very quickly, so I expect that it won't be long before we're honoring all of the local languages. And
so you created, when you started Audible in 1995, we're talking much before the iPod was launched. What was the kind of thought process, that went into creating this company?
Yeah, it was very funny. It was actually 1994, and I was a writer and a journalist, and I had the technology column in Esquire magazine, which was one of our big magazines, and it came to me that there would be solid-state devices in people's pockets, and I began telling people that civilization would be stored in these small, several-ounce solid state devices, and most people thought I was crazy. Well, it was 1994, you forget.
Shit.
The internet was the telephone line, that most people didn't know what it was. When we launched Audible, which took 2 years to invent the first digital audio player, it was 4.5 years before the iPod came out. We also invented the first way of securing the intellectual property, which became known as digital rights management. Just downloading a file, technically maintaining state, meaning that the file stops and starts where you left it. This was all physics and a lot of deep research at the time, and this has all changed, but it was very early. It was way before the market was ready, and none of those impediments exist in the Indian market now. But again, we will customize our formats and our technology. A lot of people have feature phones here and not very high memory smartphones. We will customize to those people's needs and desires and change the format, which we always do, because we're still very much a technology invention company and a content creation company.
So at launch, you're launching with Android and iOS, I believe, and of course the web platform, but will Audible also be supported on some of your Kindle devices, like for instance the Oasis and I think the latest generation Paperwhite?
So, I mean, we'll do that gradually, right? I think initially it's about getting the product out, making it available to, you know, those tens of millions of Indian customers that we speak about at a really attractive price point, and then keep going from there. So at this point, we don't have anything to announce in terms of what those devices are, but
now it's been like a couple of years since we are using the Netflix and Hotstar and these subscription-based models where it's like you pay a fee and you have access to all the content for free. Audible is not that kind of a model. You pay a monthly fee and you have like a credit system. So can you just tell us how the overall working of Audible is like for the Indian audiences?
Yeah, the Audible model is that you get a credit, and if you want to download a 70-hour piece of content or a 20-hour piece of content, whatever, it's a single price, and you get it, and you actually own it. And that's very different than music services and the like, where after, if you don't want to be a member anymore, it's still yours to own. And it's very different than having access to 30 or 40 million songs. It's not a sampling or it's usually a pretty profound experience, and it's very interesting because psychologically it's usually a private performance. It's a voice in your head. It's just for you. And when it's refracted through brilliant performances by great actors, then the entertainment value goes up.
You keep mentioning about the performance aspect of reading out the books. So could you just elaborate a bit on that?
So it's one of the great points of pride for me, and Sailesh can talk about the depth of the performance community here, is that we engage the professional creators at the top of their profession wherever we go. And so in the States, we've actually employed 20,000 different actors individually, just as Audible. And it's become a way that these great actors who can create these longer arc performances. If you think of movies, they're kind of like sprinting, and long distance running is a little bit more of this consistency. I mean, if you've ever listened to Stephen Fry do Harry Potter, where 150 different voices are highly nuanced and very sophisticated, the way they recreate this book.
And if you see the launch title that you will hear more about today, which is Mafia Queens of Mumbai, it's based off a literary work, a non-fiction book by Hossein Saidi, but it's performed by Kalki Keklan, Rajkumar Rao, and Radhika Apte. And so you have these really talented actors bringing these really powerful characters to life with a really well-produced setting, where you can hear the ambient sounds, and it really puts the listener out there in the midst of the scene. So that's a really good example of how we use the production ability and capacity to bring those stories to life.
Comedians in particular are finding this as a fantastic place to have a new venue. There's different people, novelists are writing specifically to the Audible aesthetic, and they're changing the way they're writing the prose.
A lot of people in India may not be aware of Stephen Fry, but they may relate to someone like, say, an Amitabh Bachchan, whose voice is very well known in India. So are there plans to have like Indian actors sort of reading out or narrating a book which is already been narrated, say, for an international market by some international actor, just to get the Indian
I would say in general that's definitely possible, but I think there's a lot to listen and learn here before we commit to one particular approach in particular. Yeah.
We have a very large operation in Germany, and it's very successful. And as you probably know, that dubbed movies in Germany, as with here, there are people who are quite famous for becoming Matt Damon or Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're working for us around the clock. And because they're expert actors, they know exactly how to create audio in the local language, and those are a group of people we'll definitely engage.
We are listening. We have a lot of these podcasts which are scripted and dramatized. A lot of podcast networks are sort of getting into this whole atmospheric podcast production, and some of the podcasts have also been adapted into movies or TV shows. So does Audible sort of look at that as competition? Or?
No, we look at that as a chance for the best of that to be on the Audible platform, but only the best.
Okay.
We're pretty focused on content that is worthy of being paid for.
Publishers, creators, we obviously work with. In India, I think the point of going local is that we could work with a lot of those creators as well, should, like Don said, the quality is up there and it makes sense for us to have it on the platform.
So is there a platform where, say for instance, the closest analogy I can think of is Kindle Direct Publishing, where, authors can just apply and for their work to be published on the Kindle platform. So is there sort of a Audible Direct, so to speak, where, independent creators can get onto the platform?
Yeah, there is, but we need to bring it to India. It's called acx.com, which is a very large platform for audio creation, which is it's really sophisticated. It looks like a rights marketplace, but it's not, because you actually create the programming and you can actually have the rights to a book or other things. And then there's like 20,000 actors who audition online and the like. So we'll bring that technology here too.
Yeah. Also, a lot of Indian users already use the audible.com American or EU platforms, and they're paying their monthly fee or whatever. So if they want to subscribe to the Indian edition, will that be like a separate account that they'll have to make for India, or will it be an easy transition for those users as well?
Yeah, so the way it works is that we've had tens of thousands of Indian listeners already using some of the global marketplaces, like you pointed out. And they have now the opportunity to actually move over to the India marketplace at a lower price. They can log in and out of their earlier marketplace. Those titles will always be there for them to use.
So my last question is to do with artificial intelligence. Now, just a couple of days ago, we saw in China they demoed a newsreader reading out like an anchor. He was reading out a news piece as an anchor would, as a live anchor would, and the voice modulation and all, synthetic voice, was very, very creepily, I would say, close to the human voice. So, so do you see a time somewhere in the near future where AI narrators could sort of, give competition or, I don't know, take over human narrators?
Well, if so, you can be assured that Audible will be all over leading it, and between Audible and Amazon, speech science is a massive focus of unbelievable numbers of scientists around the world. So when it is ready, it will be ready. Technological determinism, as you know well from your long work in analyzing technology, has different paces, and the sophistication of the nuance and the word prosody that creates the human experience of storytelling is not easy. And anyone who has a good ear can listen to the very, very best right now of text-to-speech and realize that to have that come at you for an hour is probably not ready. It's great for informational short form. There's no reason that the stock quotes in the weather shouldn't be read to you by a robot. But when it's ready, we will be on top of it.
Thanks a lot, Donald. Thanks a lot, Shailesh. So that's all for this episode of Tech2Talks. I do hope you give Audible a listen in It's free for a month, so definitely do try it out. I will be testing Audible over the next few weeks and will let you know what I think about Audible. So this is Nimish Sawant signing off. Do not forget to subscribe to Tech2's YouTube channel, and of course you can follow us on Facebook and Tech2. Thanks a lot for watching.